Cataclysm, Scourge of the Black Death. It is known that the epidemic reached the southeast in China in 1330 and the Crimea in 1346. Black Death, which reached Constantinople, Egypt, and Syria via merchant ships from the Crimea. Then spread across Europe from Sicily to the whole of Africa, the south and west to England and Russia in a few years. The Black Plague continued in the Western Europe from the end of the 17th century, caused massive population losses. It is estimated that the Black Plague was caused 75 million people dead. It took 2 weeks to return to the life years of his Europe in the 1940s. Such a disaster event for all the humanity. Black Death was such a disaster that completely changed every part of society in Middle Age and reshaped religion and economy in a much more individualist level. Black Death caused the largest population shock in the history of Europe. Examine that the supporting data about the disease's causes, progression, and death. Economical causes. In the short and long term. The plague's first impact was quite disruptive. Income per person and wages both increased. However, this rise was only sustained over the long term in a small portion of Europe. Great Divergence. Movement in the economic geography of Europe toward the northwest, and other indirect long-term repercussions of the Black Death are connected to Europe's expansion in comparison to the rest of the globe, particularly Asia and the Middle East. Labor salaries climbed even if the incomes of agricultural producers, particularly landowners, declined. As a result of the dip in investments, interest rates also decreased. Surviving population raised their earnings and standards of living as the deceased property was transferred to their surviving relatives, both through raising wages and taking over the deceased property. While the Black Death accelerated some developments in Western Europe, in countries that were already on the path of long-term economic development, its consequences in other regions were limited or different. Feudalism. In many locations, the Black Plague enhanced labor's bargaining leverage while reducing landlords' influence. As feudalism started to crumble, this was a later influence on the nation-states. Since the 14th century, it has been a significant factor in the decline and dissolution of feudalism in Western Europe, particularly in England. Black Plague is believed to have accelerated the process that resulted in industrial capitalism in England and the Netherlands by establishing labor shortages and a high-wage environment. Hours and schedules have taken on new significance as a result of the decline in the labor force in some economic sectors and the rise in industrial goods demand. Religion. Black Death reshaped religion. Destruction caused by Black Death was something that was never seen in history. Caused many people to doubt their beliefs. They started to believe that God abandoned them, and their faith started to crumble. Since the crumble in faith was something really dangerous for church, as they get their powers from the believers' properties, Stoics found a solution to prevent the doubt in the religion. The church didn't want to lose control over their people. Black Death's punishment ultimately terrifying the folk and making them spend and continue to empower the church. The Folk started to travel cities from a specific point, such as the town square or a specific gate, to a church or shrine, usually dedicated to the Virgin Mary. After they reached to specific points, they started to pray and fast for forgiveness. They kept doing religious activities together. As a whole, even though they learned that black death was contagious, it seemed that there was no other choice to stop the disease besides praying. Besides praying, there was also alternative cure methods, which doesn't have any scientific base. One of the cure methods was to kill and behead a snake. A snake in Christianity represents Satan. After chopping up the snake, people would rub the piece of the snake to their body, hoping that the evil that's inside them will get silenced. All these methods that was suggested by the church was to gather more income during that cataclysm, robbing the folk as much as they can before they perished. However, things turned out a bit different. In the end, the faith that was God crumbled wasn't God's. It was the faith to the church. After Black Death, the remained humans wouldn't forget how church handled the case, and some of them was convinced that they were a bunch of liars. This belief on church would be continued to the next generation, and later will be a significant factor on Renaissance. In conclusion, there have been many epidemics throughout human history. The Black Plague was undoubtedly the most devastating of all, caused death of millions of people, caused the economic and political system of that period to change. Thank you for watching.